So, since tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to make Irish potatoes for you today. And then while those are cooking on the stove back there, I'm going to show you how to make a cabbage salad, which sounds kind of boring, but it's really, really good. It's really colorful. Every time I make it in a class, people love it. The cabbage salad is in the Straight Up Food Cookbook here on page 56. The Irish potatoes are a pretty new recipe, so they are not in the cookbook. If you don't have the cookbook, it lays flat and it's just really easy to use since it's in the kitchen. This is really helpful. It's got lots of colored pictures and all of the recipes are 100% plants, no added salt, oil, or sugar, and they're also all gluten-free. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Irish potatoes, and these are really easy, and I'll talk a little bit more about them, but I want to get these potatoes going on the back stove there. This is 2 pounds of white potatoes, and I just used, let me get one. I just used the good old russet potato for these, and it's like about 4 or 5 of this size, but 2 pounds. And I looked at some different recipes and most of them use russets. They don't use Yukon Gold. Some of them just say white potatoes. So I think you could probably use any. These are going to give you a little bit more fluffier, starchy mashed potatoes though. So try to use russets. If you can't find russets, use Yukon Gold. I'm sure it'll still be delicious. So I've covered these. I've peeled them. I've also seen some recipes that don't peel theirs. I like mine peeled. So that's up to you. And I've covered them with some water. So I'm going to go ahead and move these to the back, and I'm going to go ahead and add my, how much is it? 1 teaspoon of granulated garlic here. So that can be cooking into the potatoes. And I will show you the garlic, granulated garlic that I'm using. This is a savory brand, savory spice, granulated garlic. Sometimes people ask me, do I have to use granulated? No, you can use any kind of dried garlic that you have on hand, powdered, minced, it doesn't really matter. I like granulated though because it's like sand, and excuse me, when you put it into water, it doesn't clump like powdered. So I just like granulated. All right, so I'm gonna move this to the back stove. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on high, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. And we're going to add some leek to that, but I wanted to show you how to chop that, so I haven't done that yet. And then a little bit later, we will add the cabbage, and then we're going to blend up some cashews and water to make a little sauce to put in the potatoes to make them richer, but there are options to that, and I will talk about those a little bit later. All right, so while my potatoes and my garlic are back there coming to a boil, we're also going to add in some leek. And most of the recipes that I looked at for traditional Irish potatoes, which is also called Colcannon, use leek. If you didn't have a leek, you could use an onion. And I have some notes down here at the bottom to remind you of all your different options. Some recipes use white or yellow onion or green onions if you don't have a leek. But if you can get a leek, get one. They're good. So what you want to do, and they're not always this humongous, but this is a big one, and we're not going to use all of this. Go ahead and cut the end off, the root end, and then we don't want to eat these dark green parts, so we're going to cut those off. I think I read that you could use these to flavor your vegetable stock if you make that from home. So you can keep those if you want to. I usually don't keep them. Now one thing with leeks, that looks so pretty, can you see that design, is sometimes they're dirty in the middle. There's like sand in there. They're really notorious for that. This one looks really clean, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half just to double check. And then you can kind of open it like a book here to see if it's sandy. If it is sandy, this is a really clean one. You could just rinse it out first and then bring it back over and chop it, or you could chop it first and then wash it if you want. So we need about 1 cup of chopped leeks. And was I going to use something to chop those? I'm wondering. I think I'll just use my good old 8-inch chef's knife here. So what I do, you can chop it just like this. You can give it another slice down the middle, which is what I usually do, and then just go across. That way you're not getting too big pieces, big of pieces. And a leek is really kind of different, kind of like a shallot is different from an onion. A leek is kind of along the lines of an onion, but it's a little more interesting and a little more mellow, not so bitter. I'm just remembering all the things I did not grab. Okay. So we're going for about a cup of this. That doesn't look like quite a cup yet, and it doesn't have to be totally exact, but we're gonna try to get it pretty close. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit more. I'm thinking maybe that much. We'll see. You can also use a chopper, like that little Xylus chopper that I just showed you for this. That's gonna give you slightly smaller pieces, which is fine. And this is called a pastry scraper or bench scraper, which is great to pick up stuff with. Okay, now I have too much. All right. So there's our 1 cup of chopped leeks. And I'm going to add this to the water and the potatoes and the garlic. And just give it a little stir here. And we want to add that garlic and the leeks in now, so while it's boiling, it's infusing the potatoes with that great flavor. And now we're going to get our cabbage ready. Let me circle back just for 1 sec, because step 1 was actually to soak the 1/4 cup of cashews and a 1/4 cup of water, which I have been doing here. These are raw unsalted cashews. Whenever I buy nuts or seeds, I always try to get the healthiest version possible, which is the raw and the unsalted. If you don't do cashews, you can use another kind of nut or seed. This is just to provide richness for the potatoes, because in traditional Irish potatoes, there's lots of butter and milk or cream. So this is going to give us a little bit of richness. If you don't want to do any nuts or seeds at all, you can skip this part. You don't even have to put it in. It's still going to taste great because it's got the leeks, it's got the garlic in there, and it's going to have the cabbage, and it's going to be delicious. But this just gives it a little bit of creaminess and richness. And if you want more, you can, double this, but make it like this first to see how you like it. So I'm going to be blending these in a little bit, but I'm just going to transfer them to my little blender jar here. This is my TriBest personal blender, and by the way, all my favorite tools are in my store. If you go to my website, straightupfood.com, and you click on shop, it will take you to my store, and from there you'll see my link to the Amazon store, where you can see all my favorite tools, everything. All right, so I was just kind of showing you and getting that ready, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. All right, now I can hear this boiling behind me. So I'm just gonna check on it, and I'm just gonna turn it down. It's at a full boil. I'm just gonna turn it down just slightly, but I want that to get done by the time class is done. So I'm gonna keep it kind of high. All right, now for the cabbage. I already have 2 of the 4 cups of cabbage prepared here, but I thought I would prepare the other 2 cups in front of you so you can see how I did it. Again, this is not a precise thing. If you wanted to cut your cabbage into like little squares, little confetti pieces, you could totally do that. I've done kind of the slicing method here. This is a huge head of cabbage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut around the core there. And I'm going to cut a wedge out. Try to hold it together. And would it be easier this way or would it be easier this way? Maybe this way. And then just make, thin little slices. And then when we're all done, we will cut across so the pieces aren't so big. You don't want big cabbage chunks. Like in coleslaw, little pieces are fine, big pieces don't taste as good. Okay. All right, now I'm going to stop there because that's really thick and it's a little harder to cut. And then once you get your pile here, just give it some cuts this way. That looks like about 2 cups to me. So I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to say that's ready. So 2 cups, 2 cups, and let me just check my recipe. So in step 2, we're boiling the potatoes until the potatoes are tender but not falling apart. And once they're tender, you can stick a fork or a knife tip into it, and it's pretty easy. Then we're going to add the cabbage in, which is step 3, and we're going to boil it until the potatoes are very tender. All right, so let me go ahead and transfer all of my cabbage to a bigger bowl so it's all together and ready. And again, you can use kale instead of cabbage. You can use a combo of both. So just get a little slotted spoon and pick up some and then just poke it with your knife. Oh yeah, that's looking nice and tender already. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the cabbage. And you know what? I'm gonna add just a touch more water. Uh-oh, my kitty cat is up there. All right. Let me get her down. Kitty's off the counter. I'm gonna add a little bit more water because I didn't add quite enough in the beginning. Okay. Okay, so while that's finishing up, we're just gonna wait until those potatoes get really tender and the cabbage is cooked, and then we will finish that up. We'll add our blended cashews and water and mash it up, and that will be it, I think. And then we'll add some chives on the top. Don't let me forget the chives. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the cabbage salad now. And let's see, let me move this for now, move my potato. So we'll just go down the line here. So 2 cups cabbage, there's a big cabbage theme today. And same thing, I just sliced, that piece is kind of chunky, that's all right. I just kind of sliced and then just did a little rough chop. So that is 4 cups of cabbage. If you wanted to add some red cabbage in there for a little visual flair, you could do that. We're going to add 2 cups of grated carrots, which I already grated because you don't want to watch me stand here and grate carrots. So there's 2 cups of carrots. And I just used my good old-fashioned grater like this on the big holes. Next, we're going to add in some garbanzo beans. So this is just 1 can of garbanzo beans. You can make yours from scratch. I keep some cans on hand just for convenience, but when I do keep canned things on hand, I buy good quality. So this is no salt added, organic, Eden brand garbanzo beans. And next we're going to add some red bell pepper. So the recipe calls for 1 medium red bell pepper. This is a humongous bell pepper, so I don't know if I'll use the whole thing, but let's just see what happens. So cut down one side and then open it like a book. That way you have easy access to your seed bulb, and then it's really easy just to grab. Get my rubbish bowl here. And then you won't have seeds everywhere if you cut through the seed bulb right through the middle. And then you can peel off those little white parts, which are edible, but they're just not as attractive. Okay. So I thought what I would do, and I've used this before, maybe in my last class, is to use my Vidalia Chop Wizard, which I love, love, love. And it just chops things into uniform shapes. So this is a small chopper. Can you see that? This is a small blade. This is a little bit bigger blade. And then it also comes with a slicing blade there. So I think I will use this medium one. And it just sits right there. But you do have to kind of prep your stuff first so it'll fit in that space. So let's try this. All right. So you open it up. Maybe I can get two on there. Let's see. And then you do have to use a little bit of muscle power here. Okay. But if you want uniform pieces, you know, maybe you're having company or you just want to do a special meal, or maybe you just like uniform pieces for yourself. It's so fun to have this. Okay. Kind of loud. All right, when you're all done, you just take that off. Take this off, and then you just pour it in. Look at all those pieces, how nice and even they are. All right, and next we're gonna do one medium cucumber. And you know what? I think I'm just gonna use the same thing. And I had one of those really long English cucumbers, so I just cut a portion of that off. Do I want the skin on there? You know what I usually do is, oh, and let me check these potatoes while I'm back here. Ooh, they look so good. And let me stick my chef's knife in there. I'm pretty sure they're done. All right. I'm gonna just turn that off for now because they are done, and we'll come back to that in a second. Do you like your skin on your cucumber? Do you usually leave it on there after you wash it? I will usually peel mine because I'm not a big fan of the skin, or I will do that, leave a little bit in between just for a nice look. And by the way, this is a Y chopper. I love a peeler. I love the Y peeler more than the traditional straight peeler. It just feels more comfortable and safe in my hand. And I'm always leaving my knife in the wrong place. All right, so let's try this with the cucumber, which I've never done. Should I put the whole thing in there? I'm thinking I should cut it in half first. And I put two pieces on. All right. Cucumber's nice and soft, so it'll work in here. I think something like a carrot might not work so well in here, but I'm not positive because it's so hard. Look at that. Everything's the same. I love it. And by the way, if anything is in the salad and you don't like it or you don't have it, make it anyway. It doesn't matter. You can't mess this up. All right, then we're gonna add some celery, and I'm not gonna use any choppers for the celery. I'm just gonna use my chef's knife here. So it calls for 2 ribs of celery. I usually go long ways first with my celery, so the chunks aren't quite as big. and then I kind of gather them up, and then I just go across. Okay. So this is 2 ribs. I should be using my pastry scraper for that. All right, so that's the celery. We're gonna put in some green onions. The recipe calls for 3, but these were kind of on the chunky big side, so I'm just gonna use 2. Go ahead and cut the ends off. And then any parts, this one looks pretty good, but I'll just cut a little bit off the end. And then I've already washed these, but if there's a portion like this that's kind of sad looking, just take it off. Take the sad jackets off there. And then I could probably use one of my choppers for this too, but I'm just gonna use the old 8-inch chef's knife, which isn't very sharp. I should have sharpened it. If it's getting a little too leathery down there, you can take those pieces off. Leathery, papery, I guess is a better word. Green onions are pretty pungent. They're pretty spicy. So sometimes after I've done this, I'll just give a few little chops like this. Make them a little bit smaller. Okay. If you didn't have green onion, you could put in red onion. I think that would look really nice and taste good. All right, the green onions. Then we're going to put in some basil. Maybe like a 1/4 cup. I haven't chopped this yet. Oh, you know what I was going to do? Oh well, I was going to use my little Zyliss chopper for this. Maybe I should. Maybe I still should, just to show it to you. So this is the Zyliss, Z-Y-L-I-S-S chopper. This thing is great. I've never used basil in it, but we'll see what happens. I don't know if it'll work. This is great for making salsa on the fly. It's really good. But basil is kind of a weird little flat papery herb, so I don't know how it will do in here, but we will see. We will experiment together. I think maybe I'll give it 1 or 2 chops first, just to kind of help it. If you didn't have basil, you could use parsley, you could use cilantro. All right, so you just put the lid on, and then you just pull like a toy. And the more you pull, the smaller it gets. And hold that blade in there if you're gonna do this. That looks good. I want it a little bit smaller though. Okay, that looks really good. So take your blade out. And just shake it on in there. All right, and then the last ingredient for the salad is the avocado, which if you are going to prepare this and serve it all right there, you can add the avocado. I think since I'm just going to be eating this myself, it's probably take me a while. So I think I'll leave the avocado out and just add it if I want as I eat it. All right, so that's all the chunky salad stuff. Now we're going to work on the salad dressing with our TriBest personal blender here. So we've got all our chunky salad stuff in there. Now we're going to do the dressing, which I've already started. Oops, no, that's for the potatoes. Hold on. We are going to do some lime juice right here, which I already have measured out, 1/2 cup. And we're going to do some mustard. And then we have where is it? Here it is. Some garlic. And you know what? I actually want to use this blender for this, so I'm going to just transfer my cashews and water into this measuring cup for now. Okay. I just love this little blender, and this size cup is great for grinding flax seeds or making salad dressing. It's just great. So let me get these nuts out of there. Okay. So ½ cup lime juice, and the reason that I'm even using the blender is because of the garlic here. If you want to use a garlic press, you then wouldn't even have to use a blender. You could just mix it with a fork and a cup or something. Okay, so ½ cup lime juice, which I already squoezed, 1 clove of garlic, and then how much mustard? Oh, 1/4 cup. Okay, so I'm using the Westbury Natural Organic Stone Ground Mustard, no salt added. This is a little tricky to find in the grocery stores, but what I do is order 4 or 8 at a time online, and then I just have them. This is the only salt-free mustard I've ever come across. So if you're looking for something like that, and this is in my Amazon store. And one thing you can do is just dip your measuring spoon in your lemon juice or your lime juice or some water first. And we're going to measure out about 4 tablespoons. Ooh, a little more than 1. Okay. Ooh, come on. All right. And what is in here? Let me just, oh, there's a label over it. So, but it just has a few ingredients: spices, mustard seed, and that's all I can read. All right, so we're just gonna blend this up. I pre-dressed this salad, but you can add it as you go if you would like. Here we go. Will this reach? All right, and there we are. This would be a good everyday dressing too. And if you didn't have lime juice, you could use lemon juice. That would still be good. Or grapefruit juice. Have you ever used grapefruit juice as a salad dressing? It's really good. All right, so I'm just going to pour this on. And I'm going to rinse this out because I think I'm going to use it again here in a minute. Can you guys think of anything else that would be good to add to this? I might add some black pepper. You could add some dried, which I think I might do. Let me get it. I like to add dried Italian herbs to salad sometimes. It just gives it a little flavor boost. These are Italian herbs from a store called Local Spicery. They have a good online store too. And it just, what does it have in it? No. Sage, basil, oregano, marjoram, thyme, rosemary. So, even though this isn't part of the recipe, I just wanted to show you that this is a really fun thing that you can do with salads. This was a really light dressing, light, simple dressing. If you wanted to add a creamy dressing or a favorite dressing of yours instead, go ahead and do that. Isn't that pretty? Oh boy, that looks so good. I don't know if this even needs any garnish. You could put a little avocado on the top, a little pepper, a little more of the Italian herbs. But it's so colorful and so interesting on its own. You don't really need much of a garnish. Ooh, so pretty. So back to the Irish potatoes. And we already did step 3. Everything's cooked. We're going to drain it. And then we're going to, let me get my bowl out here. And I think what I'm going to do is just grab everything instead of draining the whole pot. And I'm going to put my cashews and water back into my little Tri-Best blender. And we're just going to blend this until it's nice and smooth. Let's look at it just to make sure there's no little pieces floating around in there. That looks very nice and smooth. All right, so we're going to add this in. Yummy. And again, this is optional. If you don't want the added fat, just leave it out. Whoop. And then we're going to put a few little chives in there as well. So let's chop up. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. We're going to put some chives in. This is how I buy them at the grocery store, just in these little bundles. And for this, I just use my chef's knife and cut little tiny pieces. The recipe calls for about 1/4 cup, so I'm going to shoot for that. And if you don't have chives, you could put some green onions in. You could leave them out entirely. Chives are just so much fun. That looks like about 1/4 cup. Whoa, I wonder if that's too watery. Look at it, it looks pretty darn mushy. Maybe I should have drained those potatoes better in a colander instead of just grabbing them out of the pot. It's more like potato soup. Okay. This. And you get your cute serving dish here. Now some people like to bake this, put it in a casserole dish and bake it. You can do that, or you can just serve it like this, which I like. You might need a bigger dish than this one, but I'm just going to stick with this for now. And then I do like to add a little bit of garnish to the top. So let's just do a few more chives here. And then just sprinkle those on top. Oh. Yeah, so don't do what I did and drain your potatoes a little bit better. And I probably overcooked my potatoes and cabbage a little bit, so they got really waterlogged. So there we have it. Our potatoes and our salad.